If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another figure review. My name is Matthew, and before I do start this figure review, I would like to address something that I am currently recording circumstances under. I'm currently sick. I have the flu, or at least some sort of like flu thing. For all I know, I might have COVID again. I actually have had it twice, but that said, I might be a bit under the weather as far as like the review itself is concerned. So if I do sound a bit snuffly, please excuse that. I will still try to get this video done because I'm still passionate about what I make and I want to bring you guys some cool content. That said, today on this figure review, we are reviewing the NECA King Kong Concrete Jungle version. This is going to be the fourth and final figure of NECA's King Kong line. Well, more specifically, the line a part of a larger whole. See, this isn't directly called the NECA King Kong line. In fact, it's not just called the NECA King Kong. It's actually the NECA Ultimates line. Yeah, basically what it is, it's just a bunch of characters from a different IPs in the 8-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch scale with a boatload of different accessories, different repaints, different retools, and just all in the same line called the NECA Ultimates. That said, the same goes with the Kong, because it's not technically a license, it's public domain. NECA can do whatever the hell they want with it. And yeah, it's essentially the last Kong figure they released, which honestly kind of sucks because I was really hoping they would maybe go back and do some like older versions. I know that rights are complex, but it'd still be possible. Like a full-on 1933 Kong, a 2005 Kong, a 1970s Kong, or even go to the Monsterverse. You know, you guys haven't touched the Monsterverse Kong yet. But c'est la vie, we got an NECA King Kong anyway. 4 of them, I'm happy with them. But of course, we're going to take a look at the Concrete Jungle version, and yeah, let's just go over right to the review. So for the figure, sculpt and paint wise, this is going to be the exact same thing as the Skull Island version. And I don't mean in the sense of, oh, it's a repaint. No, it's literally the exact same figure, just with different accessories. So we're going to be a bit more brief with this, just because, and I want to make it clear that I do intend on replacing this guy eventually. I don't know when, particularly because of one stupid thing I did when I first got this guy, and I handled him like a complete moron a few years ago. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So first up, we're going to take a look at the more pissed off head sculpt, which we've already seen has the black and white eyes, which have a pinkish tint, the gray skin that comes around with the scarring, and the wounds having freshly cut ones, and ones that are more healed up, much like actual, like, natural wounds. The mouth looks a bit kind of grunk. I don't know how to properly describe it. It looks very, very realistic with like the more realistic paint job that's here. We have the dry brushing of brown, which looks a lot more vibrant than the original one did, although that could just be my current lighting conditions. And of course, looking down, looking to the left, to the right, his left, his right, and then his Jimmy Neutron style hairdo. There you go. We have the ears, which are also sculpted and painted pretty well. Although, ironically, I'd still say that the Playmates ones are slightly better sculpted. Not throwing shade to you, NECA. You guys did really good. As for the torso, it's pretty much the exact same thing still. Freshly cut open wounds across the more like skin parts of the body with the red. We have the gray, which is making a return. And all like the dry brushing with the fur and the detail work. They actually painted this brown instead of like continuing with the gray for some reason, which is a good thing. But I meant for some reason as like the original one did. The brown continues to taper down over here, which I'm just now realizing this Kong's missing a belly button. NECA, you want to explain it? Explain how this thing was not inside a womb? Anyway, further back, I'm gonna be honest and say that I do not like the way that the back is done, because fundamentally, yes, it is still the same sculpt, but the paintwork leaves a lot to be desired, as it's mostly just the gray. Because like you see this entire section which barely has any brown, and then you kind of have like it's almost like it's thinning a paint, and it just doesn't look the way that it should, and it just almost looks ugly, honestly. Which is also a con, is going to be the lack there of a thick monkey booty, which for some reason they love skipping out on the thick monkey booty. But also, by the way, that's not really a con, it's just a comical con. Conical. Anyway. For the arms, they're gonna consistently be painted. Well, at least the upper arms are gonna be more consistently painted. This is the way that the back should be, honestly. With like the brown highlights on top of a more brown charcoal-esque color. And then here we have the forearm, which for some reason has like this big clear stripe of gray that has no brown paint on it. And then we can obviously see that the fists are very well painted and sculpted, as we can see here. So much details actually compact within the arms themselves, which I'm very impressed by. Going down to the legs, of course, the very fuzzy fur makes a return here. Of course, why wouldn't it? It looks very, very good, especially like how it tapers downward, and it looks almost realistic, I would say. The gray does kind of like lose a bit, so it kind of shows up a bit more, like more towards here, and more towards here, there, and there. Upper legs, I would say, are pretty neat. Sorry, lower legs, sorry, my apologies. And for the feet, they are painted and sculpted really well. I do like the way these things look here. The nails are a bit iffy painted because it looks like he just got like ramaged right through the dirt a bit. So, and plus the bottom doesn't really feature like a whole lot of paint, but does feature a lot of good sculpt work. And looks very realistic. Copyright NECA 2020, I should say. There you go. And yeah, that is basically about it. I'm going to show this guy one more time. So, side profile, back profile, and front profile. So, as for the sculpt and paint, if you don't count the fact that this is technically, so to speak, the 4th time that this mold has been used, I would say that the sculpt and paint is really, really good. And in all honesty, I love it a lot. I do love NECA's own unique take on this Kong, which is more inspired by like the classic 1933 version. Not so much based on a particular film, but it is heavily inspired by that Kong. But that said, when you factor in the fact that this is the 4th time that they've used this mold, that kind of starts to take away from the charm. Because if you're a completionist like I am, at least most of the time, you would realize that you have 4 Kong figures that share the exact same design, say, except for the head and the color scheme. Which, on a baseline, that's really not that good. Like, I'll be honest and say that I would almost have preferred, I'll get into like it right now, but, or a bit later, but considering the fact that this figure base on base is the exact, not a little bit, the exact same version of Kong that they put out as the Skull Island version, it really just kind of leaves me wondering, like, why didn't they just merge the 2 figures into one and have like an ultimate King Kong, where you have all the heads, all the hands, all the accessories, articulation, base sculpt with both sets together. It's honestly kind of confusing. Maybe NECA was just looking at more like, how many Kongs can we sell versus making like a definitive Kong? But if you buy both of them, you're going to be left stuck as to which one's which. It's honestly kind of grateful that I don't have the other one with me right now, but That said, I feel like NECA really should have like at least acknowledged the fact that, hey, we're putting out two King Kongs of the same sculpt. Should we or should we not do this? So I'm gonna say sculpt and paint, considering the fact that this is the fourth time, at least for me chronologically, because I did technically pick out the Skull Island version before this one, even though I got them at the same time, and they did release at the same time. I'm gonna say 7 out of 10. I do feel like that this sculpt is really good and the paintwork is really well done, but that said, it's just kind of getting repetitive. And if NECA ever does plan on doing another Kong figure, we are gonna need another sculpt for this thing. But on the flip side, what is good about the sculpt and the fact that they keep reusing it is going to be the articulation. Now, because again, it's the exact same figure, let me talk about this briefly. Barbell style ball joint, which we can go up, down, side to side, swivel 360, swivel hinge here at the shoulders, which we can go a full 360, swivel not swivel hinge, just the basic swivel here at the bicep, although mine is incredibly stiff. I think I might have better time with this one. Nope, both arms are either stuck with paint still because I don't really move this thing a whole lot, or they are just like stuck. The elbows are on a double hinge. We can go in about that far, out about that far. Can't really rotate it. I mean, you kind of can, but it's not a whole lot. Swivel hinges for the wrists, so you can go in, out, and swivel to your heart's content. Waist, we can go a full 360 degrees, plus we can go back, forward, twist, and lean, of course. The legs, which we can go click, although the click is a lot more silent, but bit of a rubberized butt flap, so we can get a bit of a rotation here. And of course the swivel hinge, sorry, not really much of a swivel hinge, but it is on a hinge, which we can go quite a bit back, quite a bit forward, and can rotate. And of course a swivel hinge for the foot, which has a very awkward peg joint that is kind of like more towards this way, but it offers a lot. It offers Kong to kind of like get out to the side and does the splits. So again, for the articulation, it's good and it is very, very well done. But that said, again, it's the fourth time we've seen the articulation here. Although one of the accessories, spoiler alert, it's the alternate head sculpt, has a hinge that really doesn't add anything when, again, it's literally the same exact Kong that we've gotten already. So I'm going to say 7.5 is the one, is going to be my score for this one. Also, to address this, you might have also noticed that I picked the left arm as opposed to the right arm. That is because back in 2021, I believe, it was either 2021, I think 2021, I had opened this guy, and then what I did was I immediately bent the hinge on his elbow, and I broke this joint. I completely, like, snapped it, rolled a clip.
Beauty. Look at that. I should probably have heated this thing up.
Yeah, you can definitely just hear the crack right there and then. And like it was broken beyond repair because the actual peg itself snapped, and I didn't want to run the risk of actually like going through the trouble of getting a replacement. So, I mean, what's kind of weird is that it kind of bends in. Oh wait, hold on. It wasn't this joint. It was this joint. My apologies. It was this one that I broke. I can't even remember my own joints that I broke. It was this one because you can clearly see because this one bends. I'm such an idiot. But yeah, I broke this just right there and then. So do be careful not to bend your NECA Kong joints too far. And that said, let's talk about the accessories. For accessories, if you're wondering why there's also like white paint on the table, that is because this is a crafting table. No, like literally. It's for arts and crafts. Anyway, for the accessories, like I made mention, it is going to come with, as far as the base accessories go, much like the Skull Island version. So you do get the return of the articulated hinged jaw. the splayed out swivel hinge hands, the return of the grappling hands. So already you do get quite a bit of accessories, but what's unique to this Kong is that it comes with 2 pairs of chain shackles that actually have, I think these are plastic. Actually, no, these are metal. Chain shackles and a biplane. Yeah, an actual biplane. It's actually pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories one by one. So first up is the alternate head sculpt. You've already seen it. Let's briefly go over it again. Modified 1933 base head sculpt from the original release from 2020. Has embulged eyebrows, more scarring, and black and white eyes, as well as different mold, different paint job. I mean, same molding details, but different paint. Mine's got a bit of a defect where, like, I'm guessing the plastic didn't warp correctly. So it's a bit like, I don't even know what to say, because like it looks a bit off here. See that? It just doesn't look 100% the way it should. So yeah, mine definitely has a bit of a defect, which is also part of the reason why I plan on replacing this thing once when I do get it. But again, I've already shown it in the original review, but to basically summarize, let's actually remove this so I don't like flick that thing off into oblivion. Let's remove this head sculpt and put this one in. If you're having trouble, use a blow dryer. Do not use hot water because you're just going to warp or melt off the plastic and the paint. And of course, the hinge jaw can open up about that far, down about, close that in about that far, and you can guess do that. And of course, you still get all the articulation you want out of this thing. So let's get this head off and go for the more pissed off head sculpt because I like this head sculpt a bit more. Anyway, for the chain shackles, I'm only going to demonstrate with one hand, moving my tripod because it's literally about to fall. You can go like that. Take one of the chain shackles, put on the forearm, and then put on the the hand again. Or if you want, you can actually swap it out with another fist. Which I'm actually just gonna do just for this purposes of this video. There you go. Admittedly, while the hands are cool and the chain shackles are good in theory, I feel like Mezco did a better job with their chain shackles, which if you don't know, around here they actually can split open like with a hinge, and you can actually just clip them onto a Kong figure like that. Sadly, NECA opted to go for the pull and slide in maneuver, which I don't necessarily agree with that because that's just a lot more tedious. And like, really, why would you want to just go do that when you could just clip it on? So I definitely think Mezco's chain shackles are a bit better, but I still think that the execution of these things looks really good. And to pretty much bring in the clenched fists, they can actually carry the biplane, which actually for the biplane itself, the biplane is really well done. We have this big spinny bit which actually does spin, so you can actually do it in case if you're a stop motion nerd. I don't really do stop motion anymore. I'm more of a puppetry nerd, I guess. Not really puppetry, but you get it. We have some wheels which do not move, are completely static. We have some like rivets that go into the plane itself. Then we have some lineage work and 2 guys right here. One of them is actually wearing, actually I think both of them are wearing goggles. Well, let me see. Yeah, both of them are wearing their goggles. I'd actually be surprised if NECA didn't paint that. So yeah, he's holding up a machine gun trying to fire at Kong. And of course, the biplane itself is very, very large. It doesn't even fit into frame. I mean, there we go. So for the actual plane itself, again, but going back to it, we can see that the sculpt work is very nice. Mine's kind of coming off here. That's only because I didn't do anything. It was like this since I got it. I just been meaning to repair it. But it's just because it's so small, I don't want to like screw it up any more than it already has been screwed up. So yeah, there's the biplane, which basically you can actually slide like the seam parts into Kong's grabby hand, and you can actually grab the plane, which is really cool. I'm not going to show it on camera like that, but I think that this is honestly going to be a very unique set, which as far as like the concrete jungle idea. I think it's good, but you gotta make sure you have like an Empire State Building bust or something ready to go. Which I don't know really where there would be one on sale. I'm sure there are like maybe like 3-4 foot tall replicas of the Empire State out there in the world, or maybe you can just make one yourself and have your Kong up there. But that said, this is definitely a figure you display like in an actual pre-existing display, like as far as the accessories go. And so overall for accessories, I definitely do think that the NECA King Kong concrete version, it's gonna stand pretty much like a good second place to the accessories, because I definitely think the Skull Island version has the better quality accessories, just because like I do like the idea of including chain shackles in a biplane with your Kong figure, but there's a few problems with this. The chain shackles, a rival company literally did them better uh for an identical price point. It's a bit more expensive than this guy, but it's still around the same. Because you can actually clip those on, so actually tearing off the arm plus sliding the shackles in or taking them off every time you want to take them off, it's gonna get tiresome, and it's gonna get repetitive. Um, and the biplane I think is cool in concept and really good in execution, but that's the thing. It's just very good. It's not like completely mind-boggling, as like I feel like it also should have had like its own flight stand or something, because Kong, if I remember correctly, he didn't really. I may actually be wrong about that. I'm gonna redact that statement before I say anything that's wrong, because I haven't watched the 33 film in a while. But that said, it could have been a little bit better, because that flight stand that could have like been towering over this Kong could have been great. So that said, considering the fact that it's also the same one, the same base accessories, like the same hands, head, we get with the Skull Island version, I'm gonna say another 7 out of 10 for the accessories. A lot better than something like the poster illustrated version, but doesn't really do a whole lot. And so for the first and only size comparison I can really do, because I'm away from my setup and everything, here he is with the video game appearance Godzilla 1988 Monster of Monsters, or as you longtime viewers of the channel know him as, Game Godzilla. Oh yes. Um, I will admit, this is a very, very unique setup here, because from now on, we're going to be doing mainly NECA Godzilla reviews. I accidentally like swiped out the camera. Anyway, yeah, this is essentially the last Kong figure. And of course, here they're not really in scale at all. Kong here is supposed to be like 25-30 feet. This Godzilla is supposed to be at least a few hundred meters. So yeah, no picking any winners here as far as like the size goes. Although, does this sizing kind of look familiar to you? Yeah, this kind of looks like the Imperial Kong versus the Imperial Godzilla. I would really love to see those figures in person one day. And so, with that said, what do I think of the NECA Concrete Jungle King Kong? I'll say that as far as like stacking them on like a base on base on base on base, he would actually have to be my second least favorite Kong. Um Actually maybe not so much. It's a toss up between this and the first release, just because like the first release has a lot more to offer as far as the sculpt and paint goes, and this one does have a lot of cool accessories. But that said, if you have all four of them, it's really kind of like tough to say that this one absolutely beats out the other ones. And while I did do that NECA King Kong ranking video a long time ago, chances are it could be outdated. Who knows? That said, I definitely think that this Kong is a great figure on its own merits. It has really good sculpts, really good paint applications, a really nice boatload of articulation, and a nice package of accessories for what you get for like $25-$30. However, because I already own the previous three releases, this thing shrinks quite rapidly. The sculpt and paint is something we've already seen 3 times before. The articulation is something we've already seen 3 times before. And the accessories based on base is going to be the same as the Skull Island version. So really, it's almost like, does this figure really need to exist? Could there have been a hybrid figure, like where their 2 figures were together? In my personal opinion, there should have been like a Skull Island, Concrete Jungle mixed in together. So my personal opinion, I'm going to do a final rating of 7.5 out of 10 for this guy. He's a bit underwhelming when you pit him against his predecessors, but I would honestly say this is definitely one of the better-ish Kong figures releases in the line. But that remains to be seen. But with that said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.